Hello students and welcome to this presentation on the Thatcher years. Today we shall be looking at the economic aspect of both her first and second time as Prime Minister of the UK. So let's begin by having a quick preview. So she had tough trade union policies, as she had learnt from the previous Conservative Prime Minister Heath. He had quite a lot of issues with the trade unions. And her first term or time as Prime Minister was not successful at all. She had many economic issues, which we'll learn more about in this particular presentation. However, the 1982 Falklands War, also with the economy improving a bit, meant that her election success in 1983 occurred. And her monetarist ideology was extremely controversial, as you will find out in this presentation, and it increased the inequality gap between the poor and the rich of society. And the effects of her monetarist policy can be seen by the division that was caused within the party and also between some social changes which occurred. So let's look at the economic aspect of her first term. So the 1979 budget, which was introduced by Howe, reduced top rate tax by 23%, and indirect taxes were increased by 17%, and interest rates were increased by 17%. Now this increased social inequality because the richest members of society were being taxed less, whilst everyone in society had to bear the increase in indirect taxes to 17%. And an indirect tax, in case you're not too sure, is on things such as VAT, value added tax, which is on every good that you purchase. And if everyone has to pay that, that makes the inequality bigger because the poorer members of society cannot afford the increase in tax. 1980 and 81 budgets were called the Medium Financial Term Strategy budgets, and they were also introduced by Howe, and they had many deflationary measures because the measures above the 1979 budget meant that inflation increased rapidly because taxes for the rich were very little, and so goods became cheaper, and also and that meant that people just bought lots of goods. So the Medium Financial Term Strategy was effectively two budgets which were designed to ridicule the mistakes made in the 1979 budget. And in 1971, Thatcher subsidised both British Steel and British Leyland, and this went against her monetarist policy or ideology. Let's look at the economic aspect in the second term. So she privatised many state-owned businesses. One of them was British Gas, which was sold in 1986 for £5.4 billion, but there were many others, such as British Airways and BT. Those are common businesses you should be familiar with. And privatisation caused division within the party, because the money that was raised from selling these businesses was used to finance the failing monetarist policy. So all those taxes which they would have got, but instead they cut, they used the money raised by privatisation to cover that. And the one Tory parties didn't like this because it was designed, privatisation, to help the poorer members of society because that money could be helped for the welfare state, but instead they didn't abide by that typical policy. Lawson was Chancellor as of 1983, and Lawson, like Howe's 1979 budget, increased indirect taxes and reduced the top rate tax to 40%. And the 1986 Financial Services Act allowed anyone to sell on the stock market. And this was quite significant because back in the day, you would sell your shares to the stock exchange and then they would sell it to everyone. However, this created more financial integration between everyone. And as a result of the 1987 share crash, Lawson increased interest rates to 15%, and he did this to avoid recession, because the share crash, that meant everyone was poorer, and the trade figures were not looking very good. So by increasing interest rates to 15% and lowering taxes, he was hoping to control inflation and to avoid recession. And the poll tax was enforced in 1990 as part of the 1988 Local Government Finance Act. Now this was one of the most controversial policies that Thatcher had, and it resulted in many people the day before it was implemented going on strike and rioting in Trafalgar Square. And this is because everyone had to pay for the poll tax, and it was an equal rate of tax. Whereas nowadays you're taxed on the basis of the value of your property. So the poll tax, like other many monetarist ideology which Thatcher implemented, caused more social inequality. Thank you for listening. This is the end of the lesson. If you would like to study more of British society, please visit our channel, or for more information, visit our website. Thank you.